everybody, I'm Bree the plant lady, and there's Aiden the gardener. And as promised, we are getting busy making a bottle wall on the inside area of the fig hedge. And I showed you all this last week when we planted all of these pots, which are starting to germinate, by the way, just a few days, not even a week later. And I told Aiden, hey, will you run out and move the bottles from where we have been stashing them to over here? And he's so good at this that he just like automatically started to make the wall. And I was like, oh wait, we need to make a video to show people. So obviously we've been gathering bottles for quite a long time. It helps when you have a big stash, but you can make a bottle wall even with just a few and then just keep adding to it. And there's a couple reasons that we do these. First and foremost, here in Wake County, North Carolina, they don't actually recycle glass anymore. Plastic does get recycled, but glass goes into the dumpster. So it just makes sense to use these in the garden as an element, since we generate a fair amount of glass from both wine and beer bottles, but also like olive oil and, different juices and, lots of things come in glass bottles. Now, we've been doing glass walls for quite a while. This was actually one of our very first ones that's been in the ground, I think going on 8 years. And here in Zone 7, Central North Carolina, we don't have a lot of time when we're super cold, but these bottle walls have been perfectly fine down into single digits. The main thing is they're pointed slightly downward. That way any condensation that might build up inside the glass bottle actually can go out. So no corks, no lids. Another big advantage that they offer is the fact that they retain heat. So they essentially create a 5-degree microclimate, so you can grow things that might not ordinarily be hardy with some assurance that they'll come through the winters. Like this Kufia is a perfect example that in other parts of my garden it's not hardy, but planted adjacent to a raised bed bottle wall, it actually comes through season after season. So we're doing it in here mostly just to sort of define the border, because this year the figs kind of grew out and really made it so that we didn't have great access, and I think having a defined edge is going to help significantly. So Aiden's just been, as you can see, kind of setting them in. And let me turn this around. So Aiden's made huge progress. Basically here, he's laid the bottom layer down, and I think we'll take it all the way around sort of where Sophia is. And then he is stacking a second layer on top. And you see it's just pushing it in. There's nothing permanent about this. It can get moved later on if we want to change it. But it's just a really easy, simple way to recycle something that also then helps create a microclimate. In here this winter, I'll be able to plant, say, like cabbage along this edge, and the bottles will help keep it extra warm. So Aiden's made quite a few. I'm gonna give you a little bottle wall tour to show you all of the areas that we have bottles. On the other side of the fig hedge, this is what we call the COVID wall. This was bottles that friends brought to us at the beginning of quarantine last year, March, April, May 2020. And these, again, they're just shoved into this raised bed. Nothing is stuck. You see, they're just like that. And that, of course, went over to this edge. A lot of these bottles do, get brought to us by other people, but please don't judge. I'm frankly doing a better job recycling glass than most counties in America. This is one of the original beds. That there's actually more below this, but the walkway keeps getting increased, so they're actually buried. You see here? There's a whole layer underneath all of that. You also have to remember that my property is really wet in the winter when we get a lot of rain. The woodland swamp behind our house fills with water, And often the water line, the standing water line, will be somewhere right across here in the middle of the backyard, making the whole rest of the backyard basically, unwalkable. Now over here we have a big bottle ball walk, and this was originally where I was planning on increasing and doing a walkway next to the compost pile. But because we're buying the property next door, I have some new plans for back here. So it's not going to be a walkway, it's actually going to be a driveway that connects the two properties. But you can see bottles of any size will work. These are like gallon jugs that a friend of mine's neighbor would drink this particular wine. I've never bought wine in a jug before. And again, you can see how over time they get buried as I keep filling the walkways up. They're just a really easy way to make a raised bed that I think is far more interesting than lumber. And to be honest, lumber is so expensive. At least with bottle walls, you have like kind of fun memories of acquiring the bottles and drinking the bottles. And again, microclimates are something that I really like to play around with. And this again is an area where you can see the kufia has been, frosted in more open areas, but here, right along these walls, it's still green and doesn't look frosted yet. So the microclimates are a real thing. If you want a zone bend like me, bottle walls are a pretty good idea. All right, so it looks like you've almost gotten 2 whole layers put in.
Almost.
But now we'll know whenever we have more bottles where they need to come out to.
Yep.
And we've really increased like the hangout space in here. This was like half the size until last week.
Yeah.
So now it's gonna be much easier to have furniture here, and we'll start having fires in the fire pit. And the bottles basically just act as the edge to maintain this sort of out of control fig hedge. Well, I hope that you'll be inspired to recycle some of the glass that you use in your regular everyday life by incorporating it out into your garden by creating a bottle wall that will also create a microclimate. If you found this video to be helpful, give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and share with your friends. And as always, thanks so much for watching, everybody.